And he does seem to love you, Jimin added. Jungkook smiled a little. His friends were contradicting themselves. He started reminiscing, finally recognizing the actions and words of his husband these past few weeks. But the fear of being hurt again had always stopped him whenever he was about to forgive. I don't know, what if I get hurt again? Jungkook asked, more to himself than anyone else. Getting hurt is part of life. Getting angry is part of it too. They're all part of love. What's important is you feel those for the right people, because then, everything will be worth it. That weekend, Taehyung took Jungkook and Era to a park. Jungkook reminded himself that Taehyung was famous, but the guy didn't even care when people took their pictures. The thought of their photos leaking everywhere, spreading fast like the flu through media, made Jungkook anxious. Their marriage happened due to leaked photos, after all, and that was not a good experience for him. Jungkook silently sat on the bench while carrying Era. Taehyung was beside him, playing childishly with their daughter, which made Jungkook smile a little, but he tried to hide it. This was another side of Taehyung that he came to love. The older seemed to love children despite having such a cold personality before. A sound of a bell snatched Jungkook's attention. His head quickly turned towards the source of the sound, and he found an ice cream stand not so far away. His actions didn't go unnoticed by Taehyung, and he grinned to himself, before standing up. "Wait here," he said. Jungkook watched his husband walk to the ice cream stand, and a warm smile crawled up to his mouth. Maybe if he tried to look at the better picture, he would see that forgiving Taehyung was actually easier than it had to be. If he only let himself believe that the older would not do it again, that Taehyung was sincere whenever he apologized, maybe Jungkook could let himself forgive. Suddenly, Era let out a loud cry. Jungkook tried to calm her down, but as seconds passed by, her cries just got louder. A figure then blocked the sunlight from them, a woman's shadow enveloping their bodies. Jungkook's eyebrows furrowed in curiosity as he looked up to see who was standing in front of them, staying still as if waiting for him to look up. His eyes widened when he saw the familiar face of one of his schoolmates before, someone he didn't have a good relationship with. Eunji. A small smirk painted the woman's lips as she sent judging stares at him and his baby before snorting. "I really can't underestimate you, can I? You're out here parading the child you forced on Kim Taehyung." The frown on Jungkook's mouth got deeper, but he tried to ignore her, putting his attention back on calming Era. "Pathetic," Eunji mocked. "Does he even know how much of a desperate man you are? You purposely got yourself pregnant so he wouldn't leave you in the end, right?" Jungkook was embarrassed at hearing her words, but he was not nearly into tears. Eunji's words didn't hurt him anymore, maybe because he knew the truth, that none of them were real. Or maybe because he just grew so tired of accepting pain anymore. "What did I tell you before?" Eunji trailed off, and this time, Jungkook looked up to glance at her face, but his eyes widened when he saw angry-looking Taehyung behind the woman, and Jungkook didn't notice that he was already standing up slowly. "Ugly bad luck like yourself who kill their own parents, don't deserve to be loved. Wait for it, and I assure you, the man you call your husband today will eventually get sick of you, and and leave you for another woman. It doesn't matter if you have a child or not." Those words, however, struck straight to his heart. Jungkook's words were just so accurate and sure, and for once he let her words drown him. Jungkook choked on a sob as his eyes still darted on Taehyung and not on the woman who brought back the insecurities in him. "It really is pathetic," The woman jolted when Taehyung's deep voice entered her ears. She turned around only to see the furious expression on the man's face. Trying to ruin a family just because you're jealous of someone, ain't that just funny? A shiver ran down both Jungkook's and Eunji's spines as Taehyung's voice dropped an octave which sounded like he was growling. I'm not jealous of him. In fact, I pity him. Despite it being hard, Eunji maintained a confident stance in front of the man. A man like you deserves much better. There are a lot of choices out there. Don't be stuck on someone like this, boy. So you're saying you're any better? The woman scoffed as if she was offended before chuckling mockingly. No. I'm saying Jungkook is the worst choice ever. Taehyung burst laughing, surprising both of them. Eunji frowned, displeased that she was being laughed at, while Jungkook just feared what his husband was about to say. Maybe he is, Taehyung stuttered after his long laugh. Jungkook felt his heart stop beating for a moment before it broke into shatters again. He bit his lip to prevent himself from sobbing any louder, but he couldn't. He thought maybe they could make up and just forget about everything that happened, but here he was again, breaking Jungkook's heart. Taehyung walked to Jungkook's side, hugging him tightly with 2 paper cups of the long-forgotten ice cream in his hands. He felt Jungkook freeze in his embrace. Maybe he's the worst choice ever, but not for me. Taehyung's voice got so soft it felt like they were suddenly alone. Jungkook felt Taehyung's warm breath on his neck, and it eased his nerves a bit. Then he felt his soft kisses on his milky white skin. You see, I'm not looking for someone perfect. Someone could be the ugliest person ever, but when you love them, they'll be the most beautiful person in your eyes. And I'm not saying that my husband is ugly, because he's an angel. So what if he's imperfect? He's the most genuine person I know, and that makes him more than enough for me. He glared back at Eunji, who visibly flinched at the sight of his eyes. You're the pathetic one here. It's foolish to speak poorly of someone just because you desire what they have. I'm not one to say this, but I wish you get the amount of love you've been yearning for. Because my husband, he's loved deeply. I just hope he knows that. Taehyung slowly took the now asleep baby from Jungkook's arms and handed him the now melted ice cream. The older shrugged it off, looking at the woman who was now teary-eyed instead. Now if you'll excuse us, my husband needs more loving from me. He wrapped his arms around Jungkook's waist and started to walk away, when he figured out what to do with the ice cream in his husband's hands. Oh, we don't need this anymore. You can have it, Jungkook gasped when Taehyung slapped the paper cups out of his grasp, making them land on the ground where Eunji's feet were, staining her shoes with the now liquid dessert. The woman groaned, glaring at the guy who just smirked at her before intertwining his fingers with Jungkook's and leaving for real this time. I can't believe you did that, Jungkook stuttered as soon as they finally settled inside Taehyung's car. It's a big deal. She can't just mess with you like that and get away as if it was nothing. And just so you know, I meant every word, Taehyung replied as he started the engine. Thank you for standing up for me. Taehyung smiled softly as he put his hand on Jungkook's face, carefully caressing his cheeks, before getting the courage to kiss his forehead, and to his relief, the younger let him. I must say though, that's the longest thing you've ever said, Taehyung chuckled. No, it's not. Time passed by quickly and it has been years. Years after those non-stop heartbreaks and crying. Years after those unsure feelings, and now, they were certain. Taehyung has never been this sure of something. After Jungkook's last heartbreak, which he caused, He made sure to never do something so reckless such as drinking his problems away again. After all, he did have a bad habit of taking people home when he was dead drunk. He didn't want to make the same mistake that almost took away two of the best things that ever happened to him again. Jungkook and Era.